So yesterday I was at my sister's house. We were going there because they were throwing a party because they just finished building the roof of their house, right? And so they were making like a dinner and a lunch, and it was like for the entire day it was gonna be a party, right? So I arrived there early with my grandparents. I'm sitting there, and it's my sister, my aunt, and uncle, and there's a friend over at my sister's house, right? So it's her and her friend. And I'm sitting there on the sofa when I kind of start thinking, kind of start getting into my head, which I usually do in some social situations. But what I start thinking about is right now, I'm in this sort of mood where I don't really feel like being very social, right? I don't really feel like being the kind of person that I'm kind of striving to be, right? The person that I'm striving to be, and the reason I'm making or upgrading and leveling up my social skills is in order to become this kind of person where it's like wherever I go, I'm positive, I'm funny, I'm charismatic, right? I'm speaking to everyone, I'm a social butterfly, right? Right now, as I'm at my sister's house, I kind of started thinking in this sort of way of like, I'm not very motivated to do or to act in this sort of way, right? I'm okay with kind of just sitting on the sofa and being quiet and kind of looking at my phone here and there and, here and there saying a thing or two, not really being an autist, right? Not being like introverted or anything, being like a regular person, but not being super social. And that's when I remember, and it kind of hits me why I've started and the problem, why I've started improving my social skills and the kind of the problem that I'm facing right now. The reason that I've started improving my social skills is because these exact situations where I'm kind of quiet and there's silence and I don't really know what to say were so awkward to me and they brought me so much anxiety that I just had to level up my social skills and get them to the point where I could maintain a conversation and speak to anyone and be confident. But then through the journey of leveling up, I learned that this kind of quietness and not saying anything and not always being, social, kind of sometimes even just being quiet and just sitting somewhere isn't actually awkward. It doesn't make you really weird. It's just that I believe that it did, right? Silence, as I said in past videos, isn't really awkward for me anymore. And because of that, I'm not really running away from it. Now, the good thing about this is, of course, because I'm not running away from it, I have less anxiety. In social situations, I'm a lot more calm. And, I'm a lot more of a chill person and I don't really worry about social situations. But at the same time, that kind of fear of anxiety and the anxiety and the stress that came with it, because it's gone, it also with it went my kind of drive to improve. Because now I've gotten to this point where I can just sit quietly, not really say anything, kind of just say whatever here and there, say a few things here and there, but be mostly quiet and be okay with it. Now I don't have that kind of stress which is pushing me to new lengths or driving me to new lengths. And so I've kind of lost the motivation to really act and try to be that kind of super social guy, right? Which is what I always used to do. I always used to fake it till I made it. Basically, I used to follow specific strategies that I've learned, tips and tricks from books and YouTube videos and podcasts and courses and all that stuff, and used to really use those strategies in order to be able to talk for longer, talk with more people, be more social, like have a smile, use jump off points, tell stories, do world building, all of these strategies. And through them, I was able to maintain conversations, be social, and be funny and everything. But the reason I was doing it is because I was running from the other kind of situation, which is me being quiet and awkward. But now that I don't really get that awkwardness and that fear, the drive to kind of be that social guy is kind of gone. And so yesterday I kind of was facing myself with this question of right now I'm not really feeling like being that super social guy, right? Having that personality. I was kind of okay with just sitting there and kind of being quiet. I wasn't really in the mood. But then I thought about it like, if this is authentically what I'm feeling like being right now, should I just remain that way, right? Should I just be this way? Or should I use the strategies that I already know in my head and kind of fake this social charismatic personality in order to be more social in that situation? And so the question there was authenticity, or should I just fake it till I make it, right? what I ended up going with was I ended up just remaining in the same kind of mood for the entire day. And when I came home, actually that was just today, so that was yesterday. So today, when I woke up, I kind of had a pretty long thought about it. And I realized that it's better to fake it and act as this cheerful, charismatic personality than to be this kind of, more kind of isolated, more introverted personality, or, act in that way just because I kind of feel like it. Because, first of all, the fact that I feel like it might not be because of the fact that this is authentically how I want to be and how I am, but simply because that is an easier solution. It's a more comfortable solution, as we all know. Doing what your brain kind of tells you and doing the simpler, easier thing only leads to destruction. It's discipline and doing hard things, especially when you don't feel like them, that get you to success. And the second thing that I realized was that kind of acting as this, I call it acting, which may be kind of putting it in this kind of negative, with this like negative connotation where you're like thinking like, but I don't want to be, I don't want to be someone else. When I say acting, I mean you just use these kind of specific strategies in order to be able to kind of showcase your personality better. Because if you don't know how to talk to people, then it's pretty useful to know, for example, the strategy of like jump off points, to pay attention to what the other person says, and then when you see something that you have some knowledge about, you kind of jump off that point and you start talking about something yourself. When you're early on, you can't really just, you really need to use your conscious mind and consciously like pay attention to these things and use the tips in order to be able to kind of get the ball rolling and start being this more social version of yourself. But I realized that it's better if I use that and act in that sort of way, simply because if the whole reason that I was doing it up to this point was to run away from anxiety and stress, now that the anxiety and stress is gone, I shouldn't stop doing it. I should still keep doing it, not to run away from something, but to run towards something. Because this acting this way is the exact thing that's gonna get me the social life and the girls and just the whole social life that I want to have. And another thing that I as well realized was that a pretty popular thing to know as well, which you've probably noticed if you've been doing, disciplined things for a while, is when you don't feel like doing something, but you still go and you start doing it, after a while motivation picks up, right? Most people think it's motivation than action, but it's actually you do the action and then you get the motivation for it. So I realized that if I actually went and I kind of acted in that way that I'm talking about, where I was more social and everything, the motivation would have probably just picked up by itself, and it would have kind of come to me naturally to be that more kind of social version of myself. And so the essence of this story is, if you were thinking about like, if you were faced in a position like this where you were fine being you, which is being kind of, or if you're fine being kind of more introverted, being more quiet, even though you have the knowledge, the confidence, and you have what it takes to be super social in that sort of situation, but you still choose to kind of be introverted, realize that that's probably not because this is your authentic self, and the way that the fact that you feel like you should be this way is because this is your authentic self. It's might be, or it probably is, just that this is the easier way to live. This is the way that you're more comfortable living. And that's why your mind is getting you to live this way and to act this way, because you have nothing to fear anymore. If you've spoken to enough people and you kind of remove this anxiety and stress and negative thoughts, now you have nothing to run away from. And now you can either be okay at staying at this level, which is where 99% of people are, or you can get some ambition, realize that acting and using the strategies that you learned will get you to an even better life, better social skills, and more friends and girls and everything. And just use the information that you have, even if it may not be the most authentic thing, even if that day you're not really feeling like smiling and being social, you gotta look at it as a self-improvement habit, as going to the gym, as reading, as working on your business. You probably won't feel like doing it 99% of the time, but the reason you do it is because it leads you to a better life. So even if you go out and you don't feel like being that social, charismatic person, use your discipline to be that person, to use the knowledge that you have in order to turn yourself into that person. Act as that more social person, and after a long enough time, you'll forget that you're even acting. You'll get used to it, and that'll just become your baseline. This is at least my current theory that I have. The reason I'm making this video is to explain this theory, explain that this is what I'm going to be trying to do for the next few weeks, maybe months, and then I'll make a follow-up video, which is where I will explain what I learned and explain if this theory is true. I'll just fake it till I make it. That's the goal. If you want to improve your communication skills, check out my other videos, check out the course link in the description, click and watch this video, and do the work.